Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the news from SABA Satellite Channel from Maryam. There are tonight's top stories. President Al-Alimi congratulates Andris Baka on election as Hungary's president. Prime Minister discusses with US Charges Affairs and UK Ambassador Houthi escalation and strengthening security cooperation. Military media releases footage of drone strikes on Houthi positions across front lines. Welcome back. Presidential Leadership Council President Dr. Rashad Al-Alimi has congratulated Andris Baka on his election as President of Hungary. In a congratulatory message, Al-Alimi, on behalf of himself, the Presidential Leadership Council and the Yemeni government, extended his best wishes to President Baka for success in his new responsibilities and to the Hungarian people for continued progress and prosperity. He also expressed hope for further development and growth in bilateral relations between Yemen and Hungary across various fields. Prime Minister Dr. Shah Zindani held separate virtual meetings with US Charge Affairs Neil Hope and British Ambassador to Yemen Abida Sharif to discuss the latest Houthi escalation, bilateral cooperation, and efforts to strengthen Yemen's security and stability. During talks with Hope, Zindani briefed the US diplomat on recent Houthi attacks targeting Mocha port, commercial vessels, military positions, displacement camps, and civilian sites, as well as continued threats to international maritime navigation. He stressed the importance of strengthening Yemen-US cooperation to support state institutions, reinforce security and stability, and counter threats to international navigation and trade. Hope reaffirmed Washington's continued coordination with the Yemeni government. In his meeting with Sharif, Zindani reviewed Houthi attacks on Mocha port, commercial vessels, civilian infrastructure, and displaced communities, along with firing on front lines and threats to maritime routes. He highlighted government efforts to protect critical infrastructure, maintain essential services and supply chains, and advance economic, financial, administrative, and anti-corruption reforms. Sharif reaffirmed Britain's support for Yemen's government stability, maritime security, and efforts to address the humanitarian and economic impact on the conflict. Foreign Minister Dr. Afrah Zuba held separate talks with Indonesian Foreign Minister and UNICEF Deputy Executive Director on maritime security, humanitarian cooperation, and the latest developments in Yemen. In a phone call with Indonesian Foreign Minister Sugiarno, Zuba discussed the Houthi attacks on commercial vessels Tihama in Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which killed an Indonesian sailor. She expressed condolences and reaffirmed Yemen's commitment to assisting the injured crew and facilitating their medical care and safe evacuation. She warned that attacks on commercial vessels and civilian sailors pose a broader threat to maritime security and international navigation. Sugiarno thanked Yemen for its cooperation and assistance. In a separate meeting with UNICEF Deputy Executive Director Ted Shapian, Zuba discussed the impact of Houthi attacks on Red Sea waterways and humanitarian situation, particularly for children and vulnerable communities. She condemned restrictions on humanitarian assistance and the continued detention of UN and humanitarian personnel in Sana'a. Calling for their release, UNICEF reaffirmed its commitment to closer cooperation with the Yemeni government and expanding its field presence to improve access to vulnerable communities. Minister of Public Health and Population Dr. Qasim Bahib has discussed cooperation with the United Nations Office for Project Services, UNOPS, focusing on support for health sector and priorities for the next phase of the project. During a virtual meeting with UNOPS project advisor Dr. Khaldoun Salim, Bahib reviewed the sixth phase of the health project supported by the German Development Bank. The minister stressed the importance of strengthening coordination with the UNOPS and direct interventions toward Yemen's most pressing health needs, with focus on improving service quality, increasing healthcare facility readiness, and strengthening emergency response capacity. He also emphasized the need for sustainable interventions that deliver measurable benefits to citizens. UNOPS officials reaffirmed their commitment to continued coordination with Yemen's health ministry and implementing health projects in line with the agreed priorities and needs. Minister of Water and Environment Engineer Tawfiq Al-Sharjabi has discussed cooperation with FAO representative in Yemen, Dr. Adam Yao, focusing on projects supporting the country's water, environment, and natural resource sectors. The two sides reviewed potential capacity building support for the General Authority for Water Resources to help restore its operations and strengthen its technical and institutional capacity in managing water resources. They also discussed accelerating the transfer of an ongoing project to the ministry, preparations for a steering committee meeting expected later this month, and planning for new projects. Al-Sharjabi stressed the importance of strengthening Yemen's partnership with the Food and Agriculture Organization and benefiting from its expertise to support national priorities, while calling for faster implementation of ongoing projects and preparations for future programs. The FAO representative reaffirmed the organization's commitment to supporting Yemen's water, environment, and natural resources priorities and strengthening the technical and institutional capacity of relevant national institutions. Military media has released footage showing drone operations carried out by the armed forces against Houthi positions across several front lines. The footage shows that the military described as precise aerial strikes targeting Houthi military sites, vehicles, fortifications, and gathering as part of ongoing military operations, according to the military. According to the military, the strikes are aimed at weakening Houthi military capabilities and targeting their positions and movements across different fronts. The release comes amid renewed military escalation along Yemen's front lines, with government forces reporting increased operations against Houthi positions following a series of recent attacks. That was the news from SABA satellite channel. From Marib, thank you for watching and have a good time.